Good morning, class 11 students. So this is your subject physics, chapter number 8, gravitation, and lecture number 2. In the previous lecture, we were studying about the variation of acceleration due to gravity due to various factors. In last lecture, we have already done the variation of acceleration due to gravity due to height, and we have seen that acceleration due to gravity decreases when we go at a height from the earth's surface. So today we will be starting with the variation in g with the depth. Okay, so the second point is the variation of g due to depth and due to height we have already studied. For that, look at this diagram. So again, this is the earth which has a mass of m and radius of r. Okay, now this is the point A and we are going at a depth d inside the surface of the earth, and this is the point B. Okay, so let us draw an imaginary sphere at point B, taking O as center. Okay, so now see, at this point A, you know what is the value of acceleration due to gravity, that is gm upon r square. This you have did in last lecture. Okay, now let us suppose rho is the density of the earth and it is uniform everywhere. So density is mass upon volume. So mass is m and volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube, right? So from here, if you calculate mass, that will come to be 4 by 3 rho pi into r cube, and therefore if you put the value of this m here, you can write down acceleration due to gravity at A, that will be equal to g m, that is 4 by 3 into rho pi r cube upon r square. So this will give you 4 by 3 g rho pi r. Mark it, second equation. So this is the value of acceleration due to gravity at point A. Now to calculate the value of acceleration due to gravity at point P, we are considering earth to be divided into two parts, that is one, this part, that is a sphere which has a radius of r minus d, because see, this is r and this is d, so this radius will become r minus d. So we are considering a sphere of radius r minus d, and we are considering a spherical shell of thickness d. So we are considering these two parts. Now, okay, so now what will happen? See, there is some mass in this shell here. Similarly, there is a mass here. There will be some force of attraction between them. So on both of them, the force will be equal and opposite. Similarly, there will be a part of mass here, a part of mass here. So you can say at every point, the force will be equal and opposite due to the other opposite mass, and therefore the force will cancel out. So we will be considering only this part. We will be neglecting this part. Although there is some mass, but still we will be neglecting, because the overall force will cancel out, because the masses are equal and because the masses are present equal and opposite. So therefore force of attraction will also be equal and opposite, and therefore it will cancel out. So to calculate acceleration due to gravity at B, we will be writing GB to be gm dash upon r minus d whole square, where m dash is the mass of that spherical sphere which has a radius of r minus d. So here I have just written the two parts in which we have divided our earth. Okay, so now by the same method as we have calculated GA, we will be further calculating GB. So first of all, we want to calculate m dash. For that, we will again considering density of this sphere. So that will be mass, that is m dash upon 4 by 3 pi r cube, and here the radius of the sphere is r minus d, so it will be whole cube. From here you can easily calculate m dash, that will come to be rho into 4 by 3 pi into r minus d whole cube. Okay, so now if you know the value of m dash, just put it in the GB, that is acceleration due to gravity at B, and you will get its value. So GB will be g into m dash, that is rho into 4 by 3 pi r minus d whole cube upon r square, that is r minus d whole square. Or you can further evaluate it. This is square term, this is cube term, so this will cancel out. So you will be left only with g 4 by 3 pi rho into r minus d. So mark it, third equation. From up till here, we have calculated acceleration due to gravity at A and acceleration due to gravity at B. So now to see the variation, just divide them, that is GB upon GA. Okay, so you will see that 4 by 3 pi rho and g, these are the common terms in both of them, and therefore it will cancel out. So you will be left with r minus d upon r. Okay, so from here, if I am considering GB to be G dash and GA to be simple G, then from here G dash will come to be G into 1 minus D by R. I am just dividing R. Okay, so this is the variation of G at any depth, and as you can again see, this is G minus something. That means acceleration due to gravity decreases with depth also. Okay, so either you go at some height from the surface of Earth, or you go at some depth from the surface of Earth, value of acceleration due to gravity will always decrease. Okay, now as you know, if we are at center of Earth, then depth will become equal to radius of Earth. That means at center of Earth, D will become equal to R, and we have just calculated the value of G dash, that is G into 1 minus D by R. So if D is equal to R, so therefore that means acceleration due to gravity becomes 0 at the center of Earth. And this I have told you in previous lecture also, that at center of Earth, the value of acceleration due to gravity is 0. Okay, so we can conclude one more thing from here, that G is maximum at the surface of Earth, and as I told you, either we go at some height or we go at some depth, it decreases. So we can say acceleration due to gravity is maximum at surface of Earth and minimum at center, that is 0. Okay. Now in some questions, generally it is asked to calculate fractional decrease in the value of G when you go at some height. So how to do that? To calculate fractional decrease, you will just calculating G minus G dash upon G. That is the value at surface minus the value at any depth upon G. Okay, so as we have calculated the formula, G dash is equals to G into 1 minus D by R. So from here, if you put the value of G dash by G, okay, so from here G dash by G will be 1 minus D by R, and if you divide G here, that will become 1 minus G dash by G, so that will be equal to D by R from this formula. Okay, so if you want to calculate fractional decrease in value of G, you can simply calculate D by R. Okay, and if you are asked to calculate percentage change, then all of you know, to calculate percentage change, you will be calculating G minus G dash upon G into 100, or you can say D by R into 100. That will give you percentage change in the value of G. Okay. Okay, so the third point in the variation of G is the shape of Earth. Okay, so the shape of Earth is not exactly a sphere. Instead, it is flattened at poles and it bulges out at equator. Therefore, you can say it is in the form of a ellipse, we can say. Okay, so therefore, as you can see, let us denote this as the radius of equator and this as the radius of poles. Okay, so as you can clearly see here, radius of equator is greater than radius of pole. So that is radius of equator is greater than radius of pole. And as we have calculated that G, that is small g, is equals to gravitational constant into m upon r square. That is, your acceleration due to gravity is inversely proportional to 1 by r square. So this means if radius of equator is greater than radius of pole, then acceleration due to gravity at poles will be greater than acceleration due to gravity at equator. And this is the reason why weight of body increases as it is taken from equator to poles, because as we are going from equator to poles, value of G is increasing, and therefore, as you know, weight is mg, so therefore weight will also increase when you will go from equator to pole. Okay, so now let us see the difference between the two type of masses, that is inertial mass and gravitational mass. Okay, so the mass of the body which measures its inertia is called inertial mass, or you can say the mass which is due to the inertia of the body is called inertial mass. And similarly, the mass of the body that determines gravitational pull on it is called gravitational mass. Now, to calculate inertial mass, we generally use the formula F is equals to ma. Mi is representing inertial mass. So inertial mass is equals to force per unit acceleration. Similarly, to calculate gravitational mass, we will be using F is equals to mg upon r square. So mg is gravitational mass. Okay. So from here, gravitational mass will come equal to F r square upon gm. And as you know, gm upon r square is nothing but g. So it can also be written as F by G. Okay, so from here you can say the inertial mass does not depends on gravity. So therefore gravity does not have any effect on inertial mass, and therefore inertial mass always remains same. But gravitational mass depends on gravity. So as the gravity changes on different planets, so therefore gravitational mass will also change. Okay. Okay, so as I have told you, we calculate inertial mass by F is equals to ma, and this is nothing but Newton's second law. So you can say inertial mass is always measured by using Newton's laws of motion, whereas gravitational mass is determined by using Newton's law of gravitation, because as you can see here, we have used Newton's law of gravitation to calculate gravitational mass. Okay, so to calculate inertial mass, you will be using Newton's laws of motion, and to calculate gravitational mass, Newton's law of gravitation is used. Okay, then if we talk about how to measure these masses, then we have two types of balances, that is inertial balance and spring balance. Okay, so inertial balance always gives inertial mass, whereas spring balance always gives gravitational mass. Okay, so these are the some points which are related to inertial mass and gravitational mass. Okay, so the next is Kepler's law of planetary motion. So as it is clear by name, Kepler's law are valid for planetary motion, that is motion of the planets. There were three laws of Kepler's law. The name of the laws are law of orbits, law of areas, and law of periods. Okay, so first of all, let us see the law of orbits. So it states every planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and the sun is situated at one of the foci of the ellipse. That is, if this is an ellipse, so the planet always revolves around in this elliptical orbit, and we have these two foci of ellipse. So the sun is present at any one of these foci. So here I have taken this point, or you can say this foci at which the sun is present. Okay, so law of orbit states that every planet will be revolving in elliptical orbit around the sun, and the sun will present at any one of the foci of the ellipse. Okay, so here I have denoted 2 points, as you can see, point P and point A. So point P is called perihelion and A is called aphelion. So just they means that perihelion is the closest point from the sun and aphelion is the farthest point from the sun, or you can say farthest distance from the sun is the point where aphelion is present. Okay, so these are the two terms, perihelion and aphelion. Okay. Okay, so the second law of Kepler's law is law of areas, which states that aerial velocity of planets around sun always remains constant. That is, and what you mean by aerial velocity? Aerial velocity means area swept per unit time. That is, every planet will sweep out equal area in equal interval of time, and therefore you can say the aerial velocity of each planet around sun will remain constant. And now let me explain to you this law. Okay, so now let us suppose this is the elliptical path in which the planets revolve. This is the sun which is present at any one of the foci of the ellipse. Okay, so now let us take two instant 1 and instant 2. Okay, so in this, the planet and any planet is at point A, and after an interval of time T, let's say it reaches at A dash. The same planet at any interval of time is at B, and after time T it reaches B dash. That is, from A to A dash and from B to B dash, the planet is taking same time, that is T. Okay, now as you know the law of conservation of angular momentum, always remember the second law is based on law of conservation of angular momentum. Okay, so angular momentum is mvr, so mvara for this path and mvbrb for this one. Okay, so now m will cancel out because we are taking the same planet in both the instants. So from here you will get va upon vb is equals to rb upon ra. So from here you can conclude that v is inversely proportional to r. As you can say, va is inversely proportional to ra. That means the velocity is inversely proportional to the distance from the sun. So you can say when the planet is close to the sun, that is if r is less, velocity will be high, and when planet is far away from the sun, that is when r is higher, v will be small. So you can state it like this: planet will move slowly when it is farthest from the sun, and it will move rapidly when it is nearest to the sun, because the velocity of the planet is inversely proportional to the distance from the sun. Okay, so the next third one is law of periods. So it states that the square of time period of revolution, that is capital T, of any planet around sun is directly proportional to the cube of semi-major axis of the orbit. That is, T square is directly proportional to r cube. I am telling you what is r here. For here you can remember that it is the semi-major axis. Okay, r is your semi-major axis, and capital T is the time period of revolution of any planet. So the third law states that T square is always directly proportional to the cube of r. So now let us prove this law. Okay, so to understand the proof of this law, again we have considered an elliptical path. Sun is present at any one of the foci. So I have just drawn the axis of this ellipse. So as you know, this is the major axis. So this is the semi-major axis, right? And this length is r. That is, r is the semi-major axis. Okay, I am denoting this distance by r1 and this distance by r2. Okay, so now as you know, by the Newton's law of gravitation, the force is equals to g m into m upon r square. Now when the planet revolves around sun, so as you know, for the revolution you need some centrifugal force. So therefore this attractive force, that is Newton's law of this gravitational force, will provide the necessary centrifugal force, or you can say necessary centripetal force, which is required for the revolution. So you can say gmm upon r square will be providing you the centripetal force, that is mv square by r. Okay, so now as you know, v is written as r omega. So if you put the value of v as r omega, you will get this quantity as mr omega square. Small m will cancel out from both the sides. So you will get gm, that is g into capital M upon r square, is equals to r omega square. Okay, so mark it second equation. Now you also know omega, that is defined as 2 pi by t. So from here just put the value of omega in second equation. So you will get gm upon r square is equals to r into omega square, that is 4 pi square upon t square, right? So from here t square will come to be 4 pi square into r cube upon gm. So now if you clearly see, 4 is a constant, pi is a constant, gravitational constant is also a constant, and mass of earth again constant. So therefore t square comes directly proportional to the r cube, that is semi-major axis. Okay, so now again look at the diagram. R1 is nothing but the distance of, or you can say shortest distance from the sun, and R2 is nothing but farthest distance from the sun. Okay, so now if you look in this diagram, see R1 plus R2 will be equal to this length, and this length is also equal to R plus R. So we can say R1 plus R2 is equal to 2R. Okay, so I have just written here R1 is the shortest distance from sun, R2 is the largest distance from sun, and from figure as I explained you, R1 plus R2 is coming equal to 2R. Okay, so now from here if you calculate value of R, that will come to be R1 plus R2 upon 2. Okay, so here we have proved third law, but I am doing this just to calculate variation of t, that is time period of revolution of planet, in terms of R1 and R2, which are the shortest and largest distance from the sun. Okay, so you can just put the value of r in this equation, and you can conclude it as t square is directly proportional to r1 plus r2 upon 2 whole cube. That is, t square is directly proportional to r cube, or it can be written as like this also in terms of shortest and farthest distance from the sun. Okay, so based on the variation of g with depth, let us do a question first. So the question says calculate the depth at which effective value of g becomes g by 4. So this is just easy, a formula based question. As you know, the variation of g due to the depth, that is g dash is equals to g into 1 minus d by r. Now the effective value of gravity is given to be g by 4 and you have to calculate the value of d. So g dash is given to be g by 4, just put it here. So g will cancel out, so you will get 1 by 4 is equals to 1 minus d by r. So from here d will come to be 3r by 4. That is, at this depth your gravity or the acceleration due to gravity will become g by 4. That is 1/4 of the gravity at the surface of earth. Okay, so after going through today's lecture, you can do question number 2, 3, 12, 15 and 16 from your chapter number 8, that is gravitation, and you can do it from your NCERT book. Okay, thank you.